Ladies and gentlemen, these wonderful musicians, these wonderful members of trance belong to the Sons of Isha. Up next we have with us a true mystic. He's a visionary. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is also an author, a poet, a spiritual master, but truly with a difference. He's ranked amongst the 50 most influential people in the country. He has spoken at many prestigious forums, from the World Economic Forum to the United Nations, to leading business schools and universities of the world. He is the founder of the Isha Foundation, an international and non-profit organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the Isha Foundation has over 3 million volunteers over the world. Isha Foundation is running a large-scale grassroots project in ecology, health, and education, Project Green. Before we welcome our next speaker on stage, let's have a quick look at the AV of our speaker and this coveted foundation.
In the next half hour, you're going to meet a man who has a devoted following across India and indeed around the world. While yoga and meditation are at the core of his teachings to promote individual growth, the work of the foundation covers conservation, education and health. And you'll find him astonishingly pragmatic on a range of very modern-day problems. Let's meet Sadhguru.
For the very first time in the history of humanity, we have the necessary resource, we have the necessary capability, we have the necessary technology to address every human problem on the planet. Even 25 years ago, we couldn't have dreamt of it. But the only thing that is missing is consciousness.
Incomplete person who came in and a very complete being who's going out. Thank you very much.
This is what I want to teach you too. That is, you can be completely intoxicated without any drug, just on life. This is a shift from wine to divine. This is the only godless country on the planet, I want you to know. This is the only place on the planet where we understand that God is our making and we have a whole technology of God making. See, the only thing that I'm really good at is just this. I can just make the air around me just crackle with energy. If you have to describe yourself in one word, would you consider wildlife as 2 words or 1 word? Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it's time for us to welcome on stage the teacher. He's a leader, and more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, each one of us as children in this room should put our hands together and welcome on stage a man whose aura precedes him, the one and only Sadhguru.
sukadham maranam karunam milanam maduram smaranam karunam kalavashadya sakalam karunam samayadhipate akhilam karunam. Good morning, everyone. It's second day in a row that I have to speak after Sachin. We are to explore the marvels of the mind. We will, of course, come to that mortal being hooked, okay? No, you didn't get it? The hook shot. When we say the mind, we need to understand this in the evolutionary process of life, the way it's happened. You know, Charles Darwin went about explaining that what was a goat became a giraffe and took so many million years. What was a pig turned into an elephant and it took so many more million years. But what was a monkey became a human being rather quickly. Yes, so quickly that today anthropologists think that there is a missing link. I thought there was some kind of a missing link at the door a little while ago. Because physiologically, the difference between a chimpanzee and you, in terms of DNA difference, is only 1.23%. 1.23% is not a big difference, isn't it? Not a big percentage by any standards. But physiologically, though, the distinction between what is you and what is a chimpanzee is very small. In terms of intelligence and awareness and our ability to be conscious is tremendously different, worlds apart. So this is… people struggling with their mind is a certain kind of evolutionary issue in the sense, you have an intelligence for which you don't have a stable enough platform. Unless you strive to create a very stable platform, your intelligence will work against you. What I mean by saying your intelligence works against you is, in a day, in a 24-hour span, in these many years of living, how many of you can say, you pass 24 hours many times absolutely blissfully? Not a moment of anxiety, not a moment of agitation, not a moment of anger, not a moment of anything, just blissfully. How many of you? Believe me, there are just very few people like that on the planet. So if you are not able to keep yourself in a pleasant state, that means your intelligence is working against you. You may give it all kinds of names, you may call it stress, you may call it anxiety, you may call it fear, you may call it whatever, especially in your industry, everybody claims that they have a right to be stressful. It's a human right. If any unpleasantness is being caused to you, not from outside, but by yourself, this means your intelligence is working against you. Now, once you're on self-help to torture yourself, of course, you will do well. People are doing great today. This should have been an individual experience, but this is becoming the experience of a whole generation, which is a serious concern. So in this condition, exploring marvels of the mind, people know the miseries of the mind, because all the human misery, where is the manufacturing unit? Kochi? In your mind, isn't it? This miraculous mind, the greatest gadget on the planet. Do you agree with me? The greatest gadget on the planet has, instead of being a miracle, has become a misery manufacturing machine for most people on the planet, simply because, to put it very simply, they have not even read the user's manual. A highly sophisticated computer, even your supercomputers are just a dropout of this. But without knowing anything about it, people want to operate this. And most of the time, it's a mess. Can I… You're getting very serious. Can I tell you a joke? On a certain day, it happened, a lady went to sleep. In her sleep, she had a dream. In her dream, she saw a hunk of a man standing there and staring at her. And he started coming closer and closer and closer. He came so close, she could even feel his breath. And she trembled, not in fear. And she asked, "What will you do to me?" The man said, "Well, lady, it's your dream." What's happening in your mind is your dream. The problem with most people right now is, it is not about whether life is happening the way they want it or not. Even their dream is not happening the way they want. If their dream was happening the way they want, they could sit here blissfully, isn't it? Maybe you're not getting to do things that you want to do in the world, but you can sit here joyfully if your dream is happening the way you want it. What is it that human beings are suffering? Two most fantastic faculties that only human beings have, that's what they're suffering. That's why I said it's an evolutionary problem. What happened 10 years ago, people are capable of suffering even now, yes? Yes or no? Because there is a huge capacity to remember. They're suffering their memory. What may happen day after tomorrow, they already suffer. That means they're suffering their imagination. This ability to remember and ability to project a picture into the future, these are fantastic qualities of human mind. An earthworm cannot do it, that's why it's peaceful. Now, people wanting to become like earthworms so that there is no tension, there are many ways to handle it. You can overeat, you can get drunk, you can have a lobotomy, you can have part of the brain removed, you can do whatever you want. Now when I say brain removed, you need not necessarily go to your surgeon, you're doing it in so many ways, we could explore this. In so many ways, you're damaging the very structure of your brain simply because of the way you think, the way you live, the way you eat, the way you sit right now. The way you're sitting right now, many of you are damaging your brain. But it might have worked because most of you can be super successful in your life using a minuscule part of your brain, because it's such a phenomenal machine. It is such a phenomena, by using 2% or 10% of your brain, you could be super successful. Everybody thinks you're a superhuman being, but actually you're a cripple. Because what this is capable of, the immensity of being human, has not been explored because the fundamental faculties of being human are being suffered by most human beings. like memory and imagination. You can't the moment you start suffering something which does not exist, would you qualify for insanity, I'm asking? I'm asking you. If you're suffering something which does not exist, would you consider that insanity? Please, I want you to diagnose yourself, because this is happening widespread and people think it's normal. It's not normal. Normal is when you were a child, you're bubbling with joy. That's normal. Being pleasant is normal. Being healthy is normal. Being joyful is normal. Being miserable, depressed, sick is not normal. The moment you make it normal, you will make the entire world sick. And it's happening in big time. Because there are businesses built around this abnormality. Now, what is this mind? What can we do with it? Let's, in a brief way, it's too little time, but in a brief way, let's try to understand the structure of the mind. In English language, if you say mind, it's supposed to cover everything, but we have, in the yogic terminology, we have more specific terms. In yoga, mind is looked at as 16 parts. But here, because I have 40 minutes, we'll make it into 4 parts. The 4 parts are called buddhi, ahankara, manas and chitta. Buddhi is your intellect, the logical dimension of your mind. Unfortunately, our education systems today are using only this one aspect of our intelligence. All the other aspects which are profoundly more significant, there is no room to use those dimensions of intelligence in the system of education that we are following right now, purely intellectual, everything is logical. This is one reason why human beings are suffering the way they're suffering, because out of 4 wheels in their car, they're using only 1 wheel to drive. Obviously, they will wear out and suffer. If they had used all the 4, the car would go smooth. Driving on 1 wheel is dangerous, and if you drive on… even if you're very good at it, if you drive on 1 wheel on the streets, nobody else will want to drive with you. That's what is happening. Nobody can get along with anybody anymore as it goes by. When we set a family, there used to be 120, 200 people, but it became impossible to live with all those people. We made it into 8, our parents and us and children, but now parents are impossible, we've gotten rid of them, it's becoming difficult. You will see in the Western countries, children are impossible. By the time they're 14, you want them out, because it's impossible to live with your children. And there are couples living in neighboring houses. You won't believe this. There are couples who have rented neighboring houses. Both of them live in separate houses and they meet. Because same house, impossible. This is a consequence of just being logical and not employing other dimensions of intelligence. So buddhi is intellect, it's discriminatory in nature. The nature of the intellect is such, it's like a scalpel, it has to be sharp, otherwise it doesn't work. If you give something to your intellect, it wants to dissect and see. This method of knowing something is okay for physical things. Now you want to know your mother, you must dissect her. And believe me, that's what is happening mentally. Somebody gets close to you, you dissect them and see, suddenly all kinds of problems. If you simply embrace them, they would be beautiful people. But if you dissect them, everybody has some problem. So intellect is always in a process of dissection and it needs to be sharp, that's how it works. But right now, this sharp intellect is what is hurting people. This happened to me last year. We were trekking in the Himalayas and in Nepal, and we were camping. I was in a tent working on something. Someone else is cutting an apple, and there's another person, and she says to him, "It's a very sharp knife, be careful." It irritates me. Such an obvious damn thing, a knife is supposed to be sharp. If it's not sharp, why will I call it a knife? And he's a grown-up man, he's not a child. I ignore and continue to work. Another 2 minutes, she says, it's a very sharp knife, be careful. I said, come on, leave him alone, he's a grown man. He knows how to handle a knife. He said, no, Sadhguru, it's a very sharp knife. I said, okay, damn it, it's sharp. That's why we call it a knife. And I continue my work. In another 2 minutes, she whispers, it's a very sharp knife, be careful. 2 minutes later, he cuts his hand. I said, okay, this is like the hook shot. Already seen that this man is going to cut his hand anyway. So all that's happening is just this. See, why is it that we don't give a sharp knife to a child's hand? Not because knife is dangerous, because there is no steady hand to hold the knife. So this is the same problem with most human beings right now. If they had the brain of an earthworm, they would be quite peaceful and happy. But now, the human brain, too sharp, all the time they're cutting themselves up. See, people come to me and say, Sadhguru, I can't stand this, my mother-in-law is so horrible, my husband, I can't do it, my wife, impossible, she is my boss. I say, you come, if you stay here in the ashram, I will make sure your mother-in-law, wife, husband, boss, nobody enters this place. I'll give you a nice place to stay, good food to eat, nothing to do. Just random, whenever I feel like it, I'll come and check. When I check, you must be joyful. If you're miserable, I don't believe in feeding misery. Only condition is you must be joyful, we'll take care of you for life. Oh, you leave them alone for 24 hours, they go crazy. When you're alone, if you're suffering, obviously you're in bad company, isn't it? If you're with somebody, this guy, he's not okay, he's making me whatever. Alone and suffering means what? You are in bad company, needs fixing, isn't it? So intellect, unfortunately, has gotten too much attention, other dimensions of intelligence ignored. The next aspect of our mind is referred to as ahankara. If you say ahankara in today's world, in English people translate it as ego. It's not ego, it's identity. Without an identity, your intellect will not know how to discriminate. Its basic ability to discriminate will be lost if you have no identity. So, instantly, as you're born, when you start looking around in the world, you start taking identity. Various kinds of identities. Let's say being here in the country, I mean in India, not God's country, okay. We're identified as Indians. Suddenly everything in India looks great. Across the border, doesn't seem nice. I was in conversation with one of the film stars and Sachin was still in play at that time. And he said, Sadhguru, tell me, Sadhguru, how can our Indian cricket team beat Pakistan? I said, Indian cricket team should not try to beat Pakistan, they have to just learn to hit the ball. Why do you want to beat Pakistan? You just have to hit the ball. If you want to beat Pakistan, obviously, you will hit in the wrong place and it won't work. So this is the entire thing. The thing is the identity. The moment you're identified with something, your intellect naturally works around that. That is the nature of the intellect, that is the purpose of the intellect, to protect the identity, because identity is very important for your survival process. But once you're human, survival is not good enough. You have to survive, but survival is never good enough. Eating, sleeping, reproducing and dying one day somehow is not enough for a human being. Just look at this. If you were here like any other creature, stomach full, life would be settled. Once you're here as a human being, stomach empty, only one problem. Stomach full, 100 problems. Because the nature of the human being is such that survival process is not going to fulfill us. So identity must be held loose, that when we are doing something for a certain purpose, we need the identity, we go at it like our life depends upon it, but we must be able to keep it aside. In yoga we say, you must wear identity like a loose piece of cloth. It's loose. You know you're wearing it. When you want to keep it down, you're able to keep it down. If you don't know how to keep your identity down, slowly your intellect will start working for your self-protection and start building walls of self-protection. Walls of self-protection are also walls of self-imprisonment. If you build a wall around you to protect yourself, it also imprisons you over a period of time. So, holding the identity consciously, not becoming it, but playing the game. If one does this, intellect will not work against you. Right now, it is the identity. When I say identity, see, in this vast cosmos, this solar system is a tiny speck. In that tiny speck, planet Earth is a microspeck. In that microspeck, Kochi is a super microspeck. But in that super microspeck, you are a big man. It's a very serious problem. It's a very serious problem. In that super microspeck, how big a man you were. You heard the voices? Because you're such a big man in such a microscopic space. And that is identity. You've gotten stuck with your identity. You're not carrying your identity. You're just stuck with it. Once you're stuck with it, your intellect will start working against you. Everything seems to hurt. It has not happened to any of you in a long while, or never happened in your life that somebody poked you with something from outside. I'm asking, how much suffering or how much pain has been physically caused from outside to you? Hardly anything, most of the time nothing. Rest is all self-help, because your identity is stuck to you. It is something that you took on, but now you have become that. Once you become that, your own intellect will start working against you. It starts cutting you up in so many different ways. A perfect usage of your intellect means if you know how to hold your identity little away from yourself. Play the game when you have to, keep it aside when you don't have to. Once you have that freedom, you will see your intellect will not cause trouble to you. Now, this intellect cannot function without the backing of memory. It needs a certain amount of memory. So manas is a huge silo of memory. When I say huge silo of memory, it's bigger than most people would ever imagine. There are 8 dimensions of memory in one's manas. There is conscious memory, there is subconscious memory, there is unconscious layers of memory, there is genetic memory, there is evolutionary memory. Right now, I'm not picking on you, okay? Do you remember how your great-great-great-great-grandfather looked? No. But his nose is sitting on your face right now, because your body perfectly remembers how your forefathers looked 1,000,000 years ago. It even remembers what was the texture of the skin and still replicating it, isn't it? The volume of memory that the body carries is 1,000,000,000,000 times more than what your mind is capable of. So in the yogic way of looking at things, there is no such thing as body and mind. There is physical body, there is mental body, there's energy body. All of them have components of intelligence and memory within them. Basically, a combination of memory and intelligence is what is generally getting labeled as mind. Tell me one part of your body which doesn't have memory or intelligence. Every cell in the body has its own memory and has its own intelligence. In terms of intelligence, what a single molecule of DNA is doing right now here, with all your brain you can't figure it. So much is happening, and it remembers so much that you can't believe how much it remembers. The entire process of evolution is there in this body. There is proof for this. For example, we were talking about Darwin. Darwin's theory of evolution is about 150 years old. Just 2 years ago, 2012, I think, was the 200th anniversary of his birth. when he was 52 years of age, when he propounded this. But nearly 15,000 years ago, Adiyogi spoke about this. He said, the life upon this planet happened in 9 different stages. The first form of life, you heard of the 9 avatars? Today is the birthday of one of the avatars, supposed to be. Yes. The 9 avatars are not about individual people. This is the development of life upon this planet. He said the first form was fish or Matsyavatara, the second form was a turtle, Kurmavatara, the third one he skips all the smaller life and comes to mammals. He says the first mammal was a wild boar, the next is half man, half animal, Narasimha, the next one is a dwarfed man, Vamana, next one is a full-grown man but a volatile man, Parashurama. This is the land of Parashurama, that's why you see some things happening. And the next one is Rama, a peaceful man, next one is Krishna, a loving man, next one is to be Buddha, meditative man, the next one who is coming is a mystical man. These are not individual people, these are different stages of development of life on the planet. It runs almost parallel to Darwin's theory of evolution, but this was said 15,000 years ago by Adiyogi. This is not by studying the Galapagos Islands, this is by looking inward, because the entire evolutionary memory is there in this body, if you look at it closely enough. So the memory that Manas carries is tremendous. Not all of it is conscious, but all of it, every bit of it is in play all the time. It may not be coming to your intellect, but it is in play in so many ways. The way you sit, the way you stand, the way you breathe, the way you digest your food, all this is because of evolutionary memory. See, if you're a man, if you eat a banana, it becomes a man. If you're a woman, if you eat it, it becomes a woman. If a cow eats it, it becomes a cow. This is because of a certain type of memory that this body carries. Whatever you put into this becomes a masculine body. Whatever she puts into it, it becomes a feminine body. Whatever you put into a cow, it becomes a cow's body. It is only memory. You have a certain form, you have a certain existence only because of the type of memory that you carry, and this is manas. This is not in any one place, it is right across the body. It is called manomaya kosha, a layer of mind running through the body. There are various ways to access these dimensions of memory, and not relevant right now because it will go away somewhere else. But the next dimension of our intelligence is the most significant and most untouched by most people. This is called as chitta. Chitta is that dimension of intelligence which is unsullied by memory. It's pure intelligence, no memory in this. So I want you to understand, what you consider as myself is a certain amount of memory, isn't it? Yes? If you take away your memory, you don't know who you are. So a certain amount of memory is what you consider as myself. But there is a dimension of intelligence in this being which has no memory. That means there is no such thing as my chitta and your chitta. There is a larger mind, a pure intelligence. If you touch it, there is no here and there is no time and space. Many human beings might have touched this accidentally here and there in their life because of a certain level of involvement or engagement or focus, but the important thing is to consciously access this dimension, because if you access the dimension of intelligence beyond the states of memory, then you are not subject to the loss of physical spaces, because all physicality happens because of memory. It's only because of a certain memory everything has taken a certain form and a certain shape and a certain physical existence. So once you touch a dimension of intelligence which is beyond memory, you are beyond physical form. If you are beyond physical form, time and space doesn't matter. In a sense, you're sitting here right now, if suppose you did not have a body, does it matter we sit here for 1 hour or 1 millennia, I'm asking? Only because you have a body, it's keeping time. It is keeping time in so many different levels. But if you did not have physical nature, time and space wouldn't mean anything to you. So the moment you access this intelligence, what is here is there, what is there is here, what is now is then, what is then is now. There is no such thing as past, present and future. Past, present and future have come into existence only because of your enslavement with the memory that you are. If there is no memory, or if you transcend the silo of memory which we call as manas, there is no such thing as past, there is no such thing as present, there is no such thing as future. It's a certain continuum of time. You move into an eternal space. So a hook shot that's going to happen day after tomorrow, already it is. It's wonderful that a game could make somebody touch their chitta for a moment, but I live my entire life like this. It takes a certain, knowing exactly what's going to happen tomorrow to still play the game today. It takes a certain thing. Otherwise, you cannot access it. Most people, if they know their tomorrow, they will destroy their today. Yes? If they know their tomorrow, if anyway, suppose you know you're going to score a century, you won't go for practice? You won't play the game? You think it's going to just happen out of no balls? But to know what's going to be next moment and still to play this absolutely, with total involvement, unless you develop that in your life, that your involvement is not subjective to what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Whatever you're doing, you're 100% involved. If you bring this one quality, the possibility of touching one's chitta or teaching you even methods to touch your chitta becomes a possibility. With most human beings, this is the only problem. They have already decided what is important, what is not important, what needs their attention, what does not need their attention. No. If you can do everything with the same… everything that you have, okay? Whether it's a simple thing or a big thing, it doesn't matter. If you know how to do everything with all you got, then we can teach you ways how to access chitta consciously, not once in a way, consciously every dimension of your life. And life becomes ease when you know what's happening. It's at a certain ease, everything you can do, but the moment you know what's happening, if you cannot give yourself totally, then life is gone today itself, before you die, you're dead. So the danger of knowing tomorrow is this, but before you really consciously access chitta, the other aspects of the mind anyway will mature you into… will anyway mature you by grinding you in so many different ways. So when we say mind, what aspect of the mind are we talking about? Today, unfortunately, we are entirely stuck with the intellectual dimension of our mind, and we think that's all mind is. This is a malice that you gathered from European philosophers, where they told you, I think so I exist. I'm asking you a simple question. Tell me, because you think you exist, or because you exist you may think, which way is it? Because you exist you may think, but because people are in such a state of mental diarrhea all the time, they think thought must be happening all the time. Heart must be beating, blood must be circulating, liver must be working, kidneys must be working, but thought must be conscious. Yes? Hello? But most people are in such a state of mental diarrhea, they think thought also must be happening all the time. And now they think because they're thinking everything is happening, no. Thought must be a conscious process, but it's gotten into this mess and all the time because it's happening unconsciously, they have to fight their own thought. It's unbelievable. Why should you fight your own thought? You cannot have it. If you don't like a thought, not have it. But they don't have that freedom, it's become so compulsive. It happened one day. A very modest man enrolled himself into a medical checkup in a very super swank hospital in Northern California. These hospitals are made more luxurious than seven-star hotels, and you can go through the medical test at your own pace, not at the doctor's pace, at your own pace. 5 days, 7 days medical checkup, going through the entire process very slowly at your own pace. So he enrolled himself and he was going through this process. They appointed a very pretty-looking nurse to take care of him for these 5 days, and things were happening, and various things to drink, and this kind of MRI and that kind of stuff, all happening in a moment, in one evening, in a certain moment of relaxation. What should happen in the toilet happened on the bed. He was just wondering what to do with this mess on the bed. Just at that time, he heard this pretty nurse coming in the corridor towards his room, because fortunately in America, women make a lot of noise when they walk. Their footwear is like that, they cannot come silently. They come with talk, talk, talk. So he heard the talk, 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 he didn't know what to do if he doesn't want this young woman to come and see this mess. So he picked up the bed sheet and threw it out of the 5th floor window. Down below, a man was coming back from the party. It's such an unfair world. A man is expected to walk on a round planet which is spinning. It's not fair. So he was walking sideways and slowly trying to get home, and this white sheet came and covered him. He screamed and went off like a windmill, fighting the sheet. It took over 2 minutes of screaming and yelling and fighting to get the sheet off. By then the security came rushing, hearing this commotion. They came and asked, what happened? He just looked down at the sheet and said, it looks like I've beaten the shit out of a ghost. Now, if you fight a ghost that you created and you won, you gone cuckoo. Yes? You create the ghost, you fight and you win. And this exercise is going on all the time. All over the world, this has become a new profession, that people will teach you how to fight your own ghosts. Don't create it. Ghosts are happening, you're making, and then you fight it and win the fight. That's a ridiculous state to be in, isn't it? Because our education systems are teaching us how to gather everything in the universe into our head, but there no attention about how to use this mechanism. There is no attention at all when you're given such a sophisticated machine. This is the most sophisticated machine on the planet, yes? But is a certain amount of attention not needed to learn how to use this? Forget about what to do in the world. First, how to use this. If you know how to do this, use this, you can do just about anything, okay? Our education systems have to shift, but now we can't do anything, you're out of the school, it's time you learn something, how to engineer your interiority, how to create a situation where at least within you, what you want will happen. It doesn't happen in the world, yes? Hello? The world will not happen your way 100% ever, and I'm glad it is so. Because if the world entirely happened your way, where do I go? Where does everybody else go? It's good, world doesn't happen your way. A little happens your way, little happens my way, little happens somebody else's way, it's okay. But within you, what you want must happen, isn't it? The world need not happen our way, but this person must happen your way. If this person doesn't happen your way, this is a lost case. But most of the people are busy trying to fix what's around them the way they want it, all the time. But if you lived long enough, all of you, you should know this, even if you're just 2 people at home, still life doesn't happen just the way you want it, isn't it? 51% if it's happening your way, you have controlling stake. If you try 100%, nobody will be with you. Nobody will live with you if you want 100% of everything your way, isn't it? So, life around you should not happen 100% your way, you're not liking it. No, I want everything my way. If it happens your way 100%, that means everybody has left you, you're on a deserted island. Even there it won't happen your way, but you can imagine, because nobody to disturb the imagination. If life is happening 100% your way, you are a bloody tyrant, isn't it? You're not a normal human being. Around you, things need not happen your way. Within you, it must happen your way, isn't it? But nothing has been done about this. If you see that your mind, your emotion, your body happens the way you want it, would you keep it healthy, joyful and blissful? Yes or no? Yes. So, if it is not happening that way, it means your mind is not taking instructions from you because you've not read the user's manual. It's time to pay attention. It's time to pay attention to this machine because whatever you wish to experience, you can only experience it through this. You don't have any other way. Yes or no? The only and only way you can experience anything, material, physical, spiritual, it doesn't matter what is your intention, whatever you wish to experience, you can only experience through this. If you don't keep this undistorted and the way you want it to be, then what you experience is all accidental. Your joy is accidental, your misery is accidental, your love is accidental, everything is accidental. When you live accidentally, being fearful, being anxious is normal. See, suppose you don't know how to drive a car. You just sat in it and touched this and that. Suddenly it started moving. Anxiety or no? Car's moving, you must be happy, but you're anxious because you don't know how to handle it. You try to do this and the steering came off in your hands. And the car started moving fast. Terror or no? But if you knew how to drive and the steering was properly connected, the faster it goes, the more joyful you become. Yes or no? Right now that's all that's happening. If life becomes successful people on the planet are carrying more miserable faces than those who have not succeeded. If you don't succeed, once you come to terms with your failure, at least you can take a walk on the beach. You're okay. But successful people are carrying miserable faces and sending a wrong message to the youth of the world, because if you send out a message that success is suffering, it may so happen the next generation may not seek success. A society which does not seek success is a disastrous society. Yes? Please, all of you successful people, you must send out a message, success is joy, it's the sweetest thing in one's life. Yes or no? Small thing or big thing, do you want to do it successfully or no? Because that is the sweetest thing, isn't it? So you must all send out a message. Success has brought joy to you. If you show a joyful face, the next generation will seek success. Otherwise, they will go and smoke pot on the street. Thank you very much.